years of exports. Selling Missouri products around the world is another way that we're going to continue to see progress in this economy.
Thank you, Dave Spence.
Well, it's an election year, and I think you can make jobs numbers say whatever you want them to say and what lens you're looking through. Also this past week, we passed over the 100,000 mark of people out of the payroll. People have just given up looking for work. You know, of the jobs that were created in August, 9,500 were government jobs. I don't think that's the direction we ought to go. We need private sector jobs. I'm not going to take anything away from efforts to get Missourians back to work. That's my main focus as well. The things we need to do are bold. They're bold initiatives, and it's not playing defense. We need to go on offense. We need to enact right to work. We need true workman's comp reform, not the brokered one our governor did. True tort reform that doesn't get overridden. And we need to get pay to play out of our government.
And this question will go first to Dave Spence.
Regarding the cost of higher education, funding for higher education has been cut several years in a row now in Missouri. Do you support the tobacco tax increase on the November ballot? And do you think the state's colleges and universities need more money?
I don't support the tax increase, excuse me, and I'll tell you why. I've traveled 114 counties, and I see families with despair in their eyes, worried about $3.75 a gallon gas, putting food on their tables, worried about tomorrow, worried about if their job's going to be there, worried if they could even give a better life to their kids. So no, I don't support any tax increases at this point. On higher education, we've cut it 3 years in a row. To me, that's the equivalent of cutting the sales force when sales are down. I would fight for the reinstalling the higher education cuts that our governor has done 3 years in a row. I know we had to increase tuitions this year because of those, and it puts more on the backs of hard-working Missouri families. They're struggling already. I think it's a matter of priorities. It's a matter of looking at tax credits. Lift up every rock in this state and see how we do things. We take in $24 billion, and we can't fund our higher education. There is something wrong.
Jay Nixon.
Thank you. I don't think a tax increase is the appropriate way to fund our higher education. That being said, the public deserves a vote on it. And on matters such as this, it's important for the public to have that vote and to have their voice heard directly at the ballot box, and we will await their decision in November. As far as higher education, we have done some very strong things. We have held our tuition increases to the lowest in the nation. We've expanded dramatically our A-plus program. More than 150 schools have been added to that two-year scholarship program. 65,000 more students now can compete for those two-year tuition-free scholarships. We funded our Access and Bright Flight, so it's the smart kids that have an opportunity to stay here in the Show Me State. We're out there recruiting to get them. And we have worked hard to get strategic funding into our higher education. Just yesterday, I announced an additional $1 million of nursing dollars that's going to go to expand nursing facilities, and noted what we've done the last 3 years in our Caring for Missourians initiative, where we invested $40 million to get over 1,200 more medical degrees for jobs that exist right now. So strategic investments in higher education like that, like our Innovation Campus, which is going to shorten the time that kids take to get out of college, our Training for Tomorrow, our Mo Health Wins, focusing the dollars we have and getting funding in those schools that can get a direct output is really important.
Let's go to our next question from Bill Miller, and this question will go first to Jim Higgins.
Good morning, gentlemen. Do you think newspapers in Missouri are fair in reporting your campaign activities and your positions on issues, your record, and have you asked for and believe in newspaper editorial endorsements?
Jay Nixon.
I look forward to continuing to work with many fine newspapers and other press outlets in the state, not only to cover the news, but also to seek their counsel and advice and support. I do think that we're blessed to have a state which has a rich diversity in so many ways. This is a very, very diverse state, the regions, the political positions and whatnot. And that's why when I ran for governor, I said that we were going to continue to work throughout the state, that we were going to go all across the state, deal directly with folks out in their communities, and we have. So I think that the strong independent press, especially the diversity among it in many small communities, people still listen clearly to those voices of those newspapers, radio outlets, and others. And I look forward, just as I have as governor, to continuing to interact on a regular basis with folks, and also to ask them for their assistance when we need to get out key information. The newspapers have been very, very helpful to us on two programs. We work together on the Show Me Heroes program to make sure we get more employers signed up so that we can get more veterans hired. Our State Park Youth Corps, which has put kids in parks in the summer to make sure those parks are improved. To get the folks signed up for those and to get the businesses involved has been required the help of newspapers and others across the state. And I thank you for your help in that regard, and I look forward to working with you for years to come.
Dave Spence.
Yeah.
We need to move on here. Dave Spence.
Has the press been fair? Yeah, it's...
Okay. Governor,
yeah, I'll come back.
Our time is up, and we need to move to the next answer here. Dave Spence.
Well, I won't give a political answer because I'm not a politician. I think it's spotty, to tell you the truth. I think small-town newspapers have been pretty fair. Everybody I've walked in is welcomed with us open arms because their communities are looking for a difference. Their communities have all lost a factory. Their town squares are half boarded up, and they rely on the economy in those towns to pay for ads and pay for the newspaper. And small towns in Missouri are hurting. I've seen them all, and they're hurting. There's talk about a factory that used to be there. People have had to move away. The two large metropolitan papers, that's where I'm spotty. You know what? They'd rather concentrate on what I've done wrong than what I've done right. And I've done a lot of right things. We've been generous as a family. I'm giving of myself to lead for this state. I've told the truth, and sometimes they don't print it. So the jury's still out on the major metropolitan newspapers, but I would say rurally, they've been very fair, and we are blessed with great newspapers in this state. And with a lot of entrepreneurially owned newspapers that have to deal with workman's comp and some of the issues that are going on in our state. They have to deal with one of the easiest states in the nation to be sued. So I've been very pleasantly surprised and thrilled with the coverage rurally. Major newspapers, there's probably a reason they're getting smaller.
All right, our next question comes from Jeff Fox, and it goes first to Governor Nixon.
Good morning. Should the state expand Medicaid as envisioned under the Federal Affordable Care Act, and if not, does the state have any obligation to help that particular population get health coverage?
First of all, Bill, I do think the papers have been fair, and we appreciate the relationships that we have out there, and at times in which we have a need to discuss that, they've been very open to discussing that. As far as the potential expansions, the federal government passed a measure that had some serious problems that I laid out problems with at various times. That being said, the Supreme Court has now upheld it, and our goal now is to make sure that we get the best fit for Missouri. Our goals are pretty clear. We want to make sure that we're using taxpayer dollars well. I want to continue to engage the legislature to make these challenging decisions, but we also want to improve health care in our state. There's going to be challenges and opportunities in this regard, and I look forward to working in a bipartisan way, the way we have with other measures that the federal government has pushed down on us to try to get a best fit for our state so that we can have whatever moves forward have the most effect to use taxpayer dollars effectively, to expand health care options, to protect our health care network that's out there, and to make Missouri healthier. So I think there are clear challenges and opportunities in this regard. I think it's going to require a great deal of attention, and as I have in the past, I'll continue to work with policymakers from external to the Capitol as well as Democrats and Republicans in the Capitol to find the best fit for the Show Me state.
Dave Spence.
We all want to do the right thing. We're all empathetic. We don't want to see any of our neighbors and fellow citizens slip through the cracks, and we know we need a safety net. But as I go around the state, I also hear of rampant fraud in Medicaid, and I hear of other abuses. And if I could be assured that we were running it as well as we possibly could and there weren't abuses, I'm very open to helping our fellow citizens. But we are perilously close to not meeting the basic needs of our state as is. We are $16 trillion in debt as a nation. We are $200 million into our rainy day fund already, and our budget started July 1st. That shows we have cash flow problems in this state. I'll work with the legislature. I'll try to. We can't be everything to everybody. We've got a safety net. But the best thing we can do to bring down health care costs in this state is go from the sue me state to the show me state again. And that's where we are. We're one of the easiest states in the nation to get sued. And you don't think that has a factor on health care costs in this state? You're not hearing the truth. Our governor, career politician, has taken in over $2.4 million from plaintiffs' attorneys. They are dictating policy on health care in this state. It's not right. It is not right. We know we need to protect our citizens and give them a safety net. We've got to work together, use our dollars judiciously, because we are perilously close to not meeting the basic needs of our state that our citizens expect.
Governor Nixon, we're going to give you an opportunity for a 45-second rebuttal here if you'd like. Dave Spence alleged that you had received $2.4 million from the trial attorneys, I guess is the way you phrase that, who were dictating your health care policy, and also alleged that the Medicaid program under your administration is poorly run. Would you like to respond to that?
Well, we've worked hard in the Medicaid area just this last year, taking over $170 million out of provider rates, working with the Attorney General's office to get in there and work hard on making sure that we have a cohesive team fighting fraud when it's appropriate, and gone after making sure that we're making progress in those areas. It's people know how independent I am, and people know that we'll focus on the right things. I'll continue to move forward. And we will continue to work in a bipartisan way with the legislature with the dollars we have to make the most efficient and effective healthcare system we can, and the external forces that assist us out there. But people know how independent I am. I've been at this for a while, and there's no. I feel very strong that we'll continue to move this state forward.
Dave Spence, you have 45 seconds if you would like as well there.
Well, I think the facts speak for themselves. I've been on this campaign for close to 11 months. I've watched the campaign contributions, and it'll flat out make you sick. Labor unions, $2.3 million. Personal injury attorneys, $2.4. You want to know who's dictating policy and suffocating our state? There you have it. There's a reason we're 50th in jobs and 48th in economic development. Jay Nixon is not living in the same world that you and I are in. We're out in the real world, aren't we? We see the hurt. We see their despair. We see the people barely putting $5 of gas in their tank because that's all they have. People are waking up tomorrow hoping the news is no worse than today, and that is no way to live your life. It's okay for him. He's been on the payroll for 26 years. He's got a pension for the rest of his life that we're going to pay. I'm sorry. The real world is about results, and the results is where we find ourselves. In the real world, this CEO would be fired.
Right, let's move on to our next question then. This question comes from Hillary, and it goes first to Dave Spence.
Columbia and other communities are struggling to close the achievement gap among school children of different races. Statewide data also show clear racial disparities on many socioeconomic indicators, such as employment, education, homeownership, and business ownership. What do you make of that? And as governor, what would you do to address it?
Oh, there we go. I think it's all about jobs. We need more people getting a paycheck versus unemployment check. We need more taxpayers and not more people living off the government. You know, my wife and I have given so much back to the St. Louis City Schools at High School. For the past 6 years, we've been knee-deep in the problems in our city. And oh, by the way, we have 50,000 kids now with Normandy going the other day in unaccredited schools. 50,000. It would fill up Busch Stadium standing room only. We need more people employed in this state. We need more opportunity. We need no more dreams to be fulfilled. And we are simply languishing at the bottom of the barrel in almost every economic category. You know, a lot of education is leadership, and it starts at the top. I think there's some really well-intentioned people. We're starting to show signs of progress in St. Louis. We've been in there. We've been in the trenches. For 6 years, we've been down there trying to find a solution to the problems. Kansas City, We could probably help get it going there from some of the ideas we have. There is a racial disparity in our state, and it all comes down to economic opportunity and jobs. And the best gift we can give somebody is a career.
Jay Nixon.
Thank you. We're making progress in public education. It's one of the reasons early on in my tenure we supported increasing the Common Core standards so that we would have a challenging bar for our students to meet to compete in the education world that's going to deliver. And we support public education, both the teachers in the classroom as well as folks that take that high calling of serving in public as teachers. And that's why, even though other states have seen dramatic cuts of funding, this year we were able to have record funding for our classrooms at a time in which we've had to make very challenging decisions on our budget. So why also we've worked to expand our A-plus program, which is not only provides that 2-year scholarship, it also is a school improvement program that now 150 more schools across the Show Me state have met that 3 years of rigorous requirements to rise to that level, and we've been out there working with them. So also, when things like charters, we have worked to get more accountability in charter schools. This year, the measure we passed in a bipartisan way will get much more accountability so we don't see the failures financially of those charter schools which are propping up and moving forward in our state. But ultimately, you have to support public education. And ideas, radical ideas like vouchers, taking public money and sending that to prep schools for their dollars, for their education, just won't work. We have to take the limited resources we have and put those resources with the public schools. And as your governor, I have, and I'll continue to do that, and we will continue to see the solid improvement. It's why the test scores of our kids have gone up and why more kids are going to school.
Okay, the next question comes from Bill Miller and goes first to Jim Higgins.
If elected, what would you do about our transportation needs in Missouri? Would you work with the General Assembly on a plan for a tax increase to raise revenue for transportation? Would you help provide the leadership in pushing for a vote to raise needed revenue for transportation?
Jay Nixon.
Thank you. We have a long history in this area in our state. We have a very large road system. And so as I came in, we looked at doing a couple of things, and we're now in the process of implementing as we move forward. The first of those was to expand some of our design and build capacity so we could have roads built efficiently and effectively under that design build model, and we're moving forward in that area and getting more dollars into the construction and getting more productivity out of it. The second thing we did is we knew we had to have a much more modern MoDOT. So we are in the process of downsizing that agency by over 1,000 employees, and which will ultimately lead to over $500 million, about $512 million that would have been going to overhead, now going to roads and bridges and repairing our roads. That kind of significant structural change had been fought for years, and we were able to push that forward, push that through, and it'll mean $500 million more to repair, improve, and build roads in the state of Missouri. But as we look forward, the method of funding roads, that gas tax, as cars get more mile per gallon and more miles are driven, there are fewer dollars that come in per mile driven. So we have looming in front of us some significant discussions. Any of those discussions will ultimately have to involve the public, and I look forward to working to be a leader to improve, maintain, and improve our transportation system in the upcoming years.
Dave Spence.
We have over 32,000 miles of roads in our state, 8th most in the country. We've got a challenge. I would say, as we speak today, no matter what you say, somebody's going to say, what about this road? Our roads are in decent shape. Now, there'll be some that will dispute that, but our roads are in decent shape. Highway 36 to the north, just came on that last night. Great addition to northern Missouri. Great part of economic development. I-70, I-44, I-55, they're probably past their warranties, but we can't do it all. This year, the budget for Highway Department, as much as people are saying, oh, it's down to $600 million or $550 million, is over $2 billion. It's a lot of money. We've had some big projects like I-64, the Mississippi River Bridge. We've got now the Daniel Boone Bridge going from St. Louis County to St. Charles. We've got some other things on the horizon. You have to look at a 5, 10, 15-year horizon. Amendment 3 was good for our state. It brought us up to speed. But we can't rest on our laurels. I'd like to look from the inside out to see if $2 billion really is the right number, or it's a little more than that, before we talk about any tax increase or another Amendment 3 or anything. I think it's time we look and lift up every rock in this state, see how we do things, and see if we can do it better, more efficiently, or if we should be doing it at all. And that's the fresh eyes and fresh vision that I bring to this race.
Okay, the next question comes from Jeff Fox and goes first to Governor Jay Nixon.
Let's follow on transportation. High-speed rail is coming to the Midwest. Illinois is already building the spine of that system. Should Missouri be more aggressively pursuing its potential within that system?
First of all, Jeff, thanks for the question. We've worked hard to try to make sure that we keep a robust rail industry in the state. As most folks know, both St. Louis and Kansas City have been railheads and are significant rail centers for the sending and producing and transporting of huge amounts. So the rail economy is very important to us. In Missouri, we have a strong industrial rail process where we move a lot of goods across our state. We have worked to improve that system, to get rid of those bottlenecks. For example, over the Osage River, where we are now in the process of building a new bridge there so that we can get another lane so that we don't have those slowdowns. I think the first step is to make sure we don't get slowdowns. So when we look to more possibilities for passenger rail travel, that we have a system that can deliver on time, and so we're looking at that. We also have worked with Illinois, because I think that anybody that looks at the bigger picture of our country will see that getting the first step of that from that Chicago to St. Louis is important if we're going to be able to attract the resources for high-speed rail across our state. So that's why we have worked with the state of Illinois and others to get that initial project completed, while at the same time working to improve our network here for on-time efforts. It's all of that is part of a long-term transportation focus that will continue to provide us a competitive economy.
Dave Spence.
I think it sounds great in concept, but who's going to pay for it? Okay? I mean, let's be real about it. We're $16 trillion in debt on a national basis. We're barely meeting our needs on a statewide basis. We're already into our emergency fund, our rainy day fund. I mean, I think it sounds great. Boy, doesn't it sound great? Sure does. But who's going to pay for it? I don't think the taxpayers want to pay one more dollar for it. Hey, Illinois has 3 governors in prison and a $15 billion deficit. If they want to pay for it, that's their problem. Missouri needs to be fiscally responsible, make the tough decisions. Should it be put in the mix of whether we redo 70 or do high-speed rail? Yeah, that's probably in the mix, but I don't think that's before us right now. I'd really want to see what the load factors would be. That's my world. I want to see supply and demand. Is the demand there? Then we'll supply it. If the demand's not there, we're not in a position to build it and they will come. We're just not there.
Okay, the next question comes from Hillary Niles and goes first to Dave Spence.
All 3 of you promised to strengthen or defend the Second Amendment. Please explain exactly what you mean by that.
Well, I'm a staunch defender of the Second Amendment. Our governor hasn't always been. I was in favor of concealed carry. He said it was going to be a wild, wild west. I don't think it's been that way. It's not a matter of the guns. It's the people pulling the trigger. There's a lot of avid hunters, and there's a lot of good citizens in Missouri that are gun lovers, that are not criminals. And everybody wants to paint anybody with a gun as a criminal. The criminals are going to get guns no matter what. And economic despair is going to push them to commit crimes. So in my world, I will defend the Second Amendment because it's our God-given right and it's in our Constitution from the very beginning.
Jay Nixon.
Here in Missouri, we have a long tradition of being outdoors, of supporting gun rights, and of using those guns in a very sportsmanlike way. Now, as governor, when it's come time to deal with these issues, we have worked to make sure that we expanded the rights of folks and kept the training that was out there and made sure that military folks had the opportunity and law enforcement folks and others. We've made the necessary changes in those laws to strengthen them, to allow more people to defend themselves. But ultimately, this ties to our conservation heritage in this state. And as most everybody here knows, I've been involved in hunting and fishing and outdoor activities my entire life. And look forward to continuing that. September 1 of this year was a good way to start dove season in northeast Missouri. Last year, obviously, deer hunting, turkey hunting, all of the things we've done for many, many generations in this state are a big part of who we are as Missourians. We have a strong conservation program, we have a strong parks program, we have strong soil and water programs, and all those are built on, and those strong programs allow us to have excellent education for kids. I mean, we started beginning a governor's youth turkey hunt, and we've had those now the last 3 years, because what we want to do is pass on that conservation ethic and also pass on the training. So the kids that qualify for that, to do the essays and win the competition, They get a half a day at hunter training. Then we get some time to spend with them. Then we take folks out with them on their own property and allow them to hunt, many of them for the first time. So to expand this conservation ethic in our state is something very, very important, and something that is a value we share and one I look forward to protecting.
Okay, the next question will come from Bill Miller and go first to Jim Higgins.
Do you believe the Corps of Engineers operating plan for the Missouri River takes into consideration what is best for our landowners along the river? Is there something lacking in the Corps plan as to Missouri?
Jay Nixon.
Missouri River is important to the state of Missouri for a lot of reasons. First of all, it provides a transportation arm for us to keep that competition between rail, truck, and barge so that we can get our products to market more cost effectively. Second, it's an important source of water. And third, that land right by that river, all the way across 367 miles across our great state, is some of the most vibrant agriculture and productive agriculture we have in the state. We also have a number of cities that are up next to it. Now, I've jousted with the Corps of Engineers many times, and will continue to in Missouri's interests. I feel that the upstate states and the reservoirs upstream feel as if sometimes that the Missouri River should be named the North Dakota or the South Dakota River or Montana, and we have worked very, very hard to make sure we protect our rights. Move up the gauge marks on the upstream reservoir so that we get more flood control down here, downstream, as well as get rid of the, what I think is not scientifically based, spring rise, which can cause floods because of the natural hydrograph of that particular river. I've worked really hard on river issues, and none more important than last year when we saw the floods in northwest Missouri, or the Corps of Engineers' wrong-headed decision to blow up the levee in southeast Missouri. Missourians are tied directly to that river and need a governor with a deep understanding of how we can fight for our rights.
Dave Spence.
I think it lacks total common sense. And everybody along the Missouri River will tell you that. You know what? Sometimes we get regulations in front of common sense. And it's high time we changed it around. And that's what I bring to the party. You know, I understand we need to protect the sturgeon. I understand that. There's got to be a happy medium out there. But we shouldn't have these great pendulum swings where shut down commerce, don't dredge, shut down our grain traffic, shut down our barge traffic. There's got to be a happy medium. You've got to communicate with them. But in the last 2 years, I don't live along the Missouri River. However, everybody I've talked to that does is fit to be tied that our federal government and the Corps of Engineers has lost their mind. I would get in there, deal with them, and I will be a governor that stands up to the federal government and lack of common sense and the continuing rise of bureaucracy and regulations. I will fight tooth and nail to see what's best for 5.9 million Missourians.
Okay, this will be our last question. It will come from Jeff Fox and go first to Governor Jay Nixon.
The state's foundation formula for our public schools is complex and remains underfunded. Should it be overhauled, and if so, how?
We've worked hard to work with the legislature, both in the changes they've made in the past as well as the methods that we fund K-12 education. And we will continue to put dollars there. As I said before, last year at the beginning of the year, our focus was on making sure that we preserved the funding for K-12 so that we had a certainty of their dollars, unlike other states. And we were able to get that done, quite frankly, record spending on investment on K-12 education. As we move forward, working with folks to make sure that we get the necessary tweaks to the formula if they're necessary because of growth across the state and shifts in population and assessed valuation is something we'll work for. But it is a very complicated rubric, and I think that it is, it's very easy to talk about how things might be different, but the bottom line is that the legislature has in various times, this last method was pushed through by Senator Shields and others. It focuses on the right things, and we will look forward to working with them if there are necessary small changes to be made. But that basic formula, that making sure we get an equitable distribution of those dollars, is something that's been part of Missouri law for many, many decades, and we'll continue to work to make it as efficient, effective, and as fair as possible.
Dave Spence.
It's a slippery slope. It really is. Because no matter where you go in the state, people feel like they don't get enough. The ones that are getting it want to hang on to it. I'm willing to look at it. You know, I'm a problem solver. I'm not a politician. We got a lot of problems in our state. If people feel like it's a problem, I'm willing to open up and look at it. And I'll surround myself with people that are unbiased and look at it and see if it's truly fair. But also, in our state, we have a funding problem. It's called lack of taxpayers. Money is not always the answer to every problem in education. Can they tweak their business model? Absolutely. I would encourage them to. That's just common sense. That's good business sense. But we really need to look at the number of taxpayers and the number of people that are on unemployment and that have given up. And that is hurting our overall education system because our tax base is dwindling. So the best thing we can do is encourage more jobs to come to Missouri, Missouri businesses to expand, get more taxpayers, and then you know what? It's a problem because you have funding. But right now, we're trying to squeeze blood from a turnip in our state. A lot of farmers, they know what that means. And we just don't have enough taxpayers to truly fund our K through 12 equitably so that everybody's happy.
Jim Higgins has raised the issue of vouchers for education. We have enough time for a 45-second rebuttal. Governor Nixon, would you like to address vouchers for education?
I think with the limited resources we have, plus the basic understanding of Missourians that public schools are supported by the public, I just think it's a clear values issue that we should not take public dollars and send them to private schools. And the only way that we're going to, and there have been efforts to try to do that, and both of my opponents have been in favor of doing that. I think it is not the right way to go for our state. I think that public education needs to be supported by the public. You need to have that connection with communities. It's a long tradition of our state. It's an important part of what public education means, that direct tie, and taking public dollars and giving them to private schools, I think is a significant shift from what we have been as a state and wrong on policy.
Dave Spence, do you support the use of vouchers in education?
Not right now. No, I think it'd be mass chaos, to tell you the truth. But I do think the only thing that's going to improve our education system and the education or the systems, those families and kids deserve better. Missourians should expect more. You know, sometimes those business models are broken and we need to tear it up and start over. Our education system, we tend to dwell in the negative. I'd say 97% of the schools in the state are working really well. However, the most impactful people in our state are the ones in those unaccredited districts. And we're losing a whole generation by not putting every effort and whatever it takes. And if it includes school choice, that's what it's going to be, because we need to get those people graduating to a dream versus a life of poverty.
Jim Higgins, you have the option to say more about vouchers if you'd like.
I'll pass.
Okay. It is time now for our closing statements, and we will start first with Governor Jay Nixon. Again, the candidates have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Governor, go ahead.
It's been a high honor and privilege to serve the people of Missouri as your governor, and I look forward to the opportunity if the people honor me with the continuation of that ability. You know, it's been 4 years, but we've had a good week. You look at it yesterday, we finished the day down in Neosho, where we were able to announce that for the third straight year in a row, Missouri's workers' compensation rates are going down. They're going down because we're getting more competition in the market, and workers are better trained and more safe. Sitting there with Crowder College and with those workers, very proud of them. Earlier in the day, I was here in Kirksville announcing we had exceeded our goals in caring for Missourians, and more health care education was being delivered in the state because we're efficiently and effectively delivering what it takes to move the state forward. And just a couple of days before that, I had a chance to walk through that brand new Ford plant in Kansas City, which is going to be the most efficient and effective auto plant anywhere in the world. I had a decision when I was elected governor, and the first day I was in, I made a decision to appoint an auto jobs task force and say that the auto industry of America was going to start right again right here in the Show Me State. And when thousands of people's jobs were on the line and the legislature didn't get it done on time, I called them back. And I brought Democrats and Republicans together and in a fiscally prudent way put together the necessary package to get that investment in our state. And because of that, Ford invests in $1.1 billion in our state, GM invests in $380 million, thousands of jobs coming our way, the rebirth of the parts industry by staying focused on what we can do, by bringing people together. We're making real progress. That's why we've seen the jobs report show our unemployment rate below the national average. That's why we've seen this morning's number confirm we created the third most jobs of any state in the country, including 4,900 new manufacturing jobs in this state this month alone. We're headed in the right direction. We need to keep moving that way.
Dave Spence.
I'll give you one name in history. You probably won't know who it is. Edward Smith. He was the captain of the Titanic. He was down partying with the guests on the boat while we ran into an iceberg. I feel like we're running into an iceberg in this state. We've got 1 million Missourians on food stamps. We're 48th in economic development. We've got rampant pay-to-play in Jeff City. The governor's office is for sale, and it's not right. He is beholden to special interests. Look at the monetary trail. It's not right. It's not what our state deserves. And as I go around to 114 counties, they're looking for honesty, they're looking for integrity, and they're looking for somebody to believe in that truly will fight for them and fight for their jobs. Not fight for his job, fight for their jobs. It's time for the career politician to go home. It is time for true leaders to come in and straighten out what the politicians have made. The Post-Dispatch called our governor the invisible governor for a reason. This is about leadership. This isn't about polls. This isn't about the next election. There has never probably been a bigger contrast in the governor's race in our state. We've not had a business person run our state since 1937. I don't want the lobbyist money. My votes are not for sale, my vetoes are not for sale, and my opinions are not for sale. And Missourians, we need to raise the bar and dream big. I've been doing that all my life, and you know what? We've accomplished a lot of those dreams. I truly want to get Missourians back to work. We've lost our optimism in the state. We really have. All corners of it. We've lost optimism. We're not growing. 3 years in a row at 0% growth. That's not momentum. I bring fresh eyes, fresh energy, and fresh set of ideas. And I want Missouri to join me in getting Missouri back to work.
Okay, well, that concludes our Missouri gubernatorial debate today. A reminder that our U.S. Senate debate will start in 15 minutes. Let's give our candidates for governor a round of applause.